Wow, Ryan, I've just been reading this incredible narrative, and I have to say, it's like a spy novel, but it's real life. This story starts in 1945 with this guy born into what sounds like a very quintessential, strict New England middle-class family.
Right? It's wild. Puritanical, moralistic, staunchly Republican parents, first in their families to go to college. You can already feel the weight of expectation, can't you? Like this kid was destined for a very specific path.
Absolutely. And then his father, after serving in WWA, takes a job teaching at Tilton School, this exclusive boys' boarding school. So suddenly they're living on campus, surrounded by the sons of the super rich from all over the world.
Talk about a culture clash. He's cash-starved, his family is, but they're not poor in the traditional sense because all their needs are met by the school. But still, that distinction between them and the scions of wealthy families must have been jarring.
Definitely. And he even describes his parents joking about being lords of the manor, ruling over the lowly peasants, the townies. That's a pretty intense upbringing, especially when your first friends are from that peasant class.
Yeah, those early friendships with Anne, Priscilla, and Judy, and his parents' disapproval, even calling the townie girls sluts, that sets up so much internal conflict for him. He's caught between his parents' world and his own genuine connections.
It's tragic, really. He falls in love with these girls but defers to his parents' wishes. That repression, I think, becomes a major theme throughout his life, right? Like he's always fighting against what's expected of him versus what he truly feels.
Exactly. Fast forward to age 14, he gets free tuition to Tilton, and his parents prod him to completely cut off his old townie friends. He explicitly says he never saw them again. That's a harsh break from his past.
And he's alone. His new classmates go home to mansions. He's stuck on campus. No girlfriends because all the girls he knew were sluts and he'd cast them off. So much frustration, so much isolation for a young man.
And his parents, masters of manipulation as he puts it, telling him he's privileged and will find a perfect wife. But inside he's seething, craving female companionship, obsessed with the idea of sex. That repressed rage has to go somewhere.
And it does. He channels it into excellence. Honors student, captain of 2 varsity teams, editor of the school newspaper. He's determined to show up his rich classmates and leave Tilton behind. That drive is fierce.
It's a powerful form of rebellion, isn't it? To excel beyond what anyone expects just to prove a point. But then he gets to college, Brown and Middlebury, and his father pushes him towards Middlebury, even with the Ivy League offer.
What if you break your leg, his father asks. The manipulation continues. He buckles. And Middlebury, to him, feels like just an inflated version of Tilton. Still poor, still outclassed, still miserable.
I mean, 4 years without going to school with a single female. That explains so much of his frustration, doesn't it? He pleads with his dad to let him drop out, move to Boston, learn about life and women. But his dad's pride wins again.
That's when coincidences start to happen, as he describes them. These moments that seem insignificant but totally alter his trajectory. The first, Farhad, this charismatic Iranian guy who played professional soccer in Rome, total opposite of our protagonist.
Farhad sounds like a force of nature, irresistible to women, teaching him to drink, party, ignore his parents. And our protagonist consciously chooses to stop studying, to break his academic leg to get back at his father. His grades plummet, he loses his scholarship, gets a loan, first introduction to debt.
And then the second coincidence, Anne, just like his childhood sweetheart, a platonic, truly loving relationship, the first he'd ever experienced. It's like he's finding fragments of what he lost, even as he's rebelling.
The rebellion culminates in him dropping out of Middlebury. His father threatens to disown him, Farhad eggs him on, and then that crazy bar incident where Farhad slashes a drunken farmer to protect him. That's some serious bond and a huge turning point.
Absolutely. He lies to campus police to protect Farhad, who gets expelled anyway. They move to Boston, share an apartment. And he lands a job at Hearst's Record American. Life is just completely off the rails from his parents' vision.
But the Vietnam War is looming, and his friends are getting drafted. So to avoid that, he enrolls in Boston University. Pragmatic, but again, not exactly the Ivy League path his parents wanted.
And Anne, the Anne from Middlebury, breaks up with her old boyfriend and starts visiting him. She sounds like a wonderful influence, softening his anger about the war, inspiring him to write. He eventually marries her, even though he joked about being blackmailed because she wouldn't move in until they were married.
Still struggling with those archaic and prudish moral standards his parents instilled, it seems. But he clearly values her. This is where the story takes another fascinating turn into the intelligence world. Anne's father is a brilliant engineer with the Navy, and his best friend is Uncle Frank, a high-level executive at the NSA.
Uncle Frank comes to his rescue, telling him an NSA job means draft deferment. He goes through these grueling polygraph-monitored interviews, convinced he'll fail because he opposes the Vietnam War.
But they don't care about his anti-war stance. They focus on his upbringing, his anger at his parents, his frustration about the lack of women and money, his fantasy world, his relationship with Farhad, and his willingness to lie to the police, which is just wild.
He initially thinks these are negatives, markers of a reject. But years later, he realizes the NSA saw them as positives. Anger, obsession, ambition, rebellion, ability to get along with foreigners, willingness to lie, those were the attributes they sought. He was seducible, as he puts it.
And the kicker, Farhad's father worked for U.S. intelligence in Iran, so his friendship with Farhad was a definite plus. It's like his entire life, all the mistakes and rebellions, had been preparing him for this without him even knowing.
The NSA offers him a job training in the art of spying. But then, another coincidence. He impulsively attends a Peace Corps seminar at BU, and guess what? Peace Corps also offers draft deferment.
It's like he's playing a game of chess without realizing the board has already been set up for him. The Peace Corps recruiter mentions the Amazon rainforest, indigenous people living like pre-colonial North Americans. This deeply resonates with his own Abenaki heritage and dreams.
He calls Uncle Frank about it, expecting disapproval. But Uncle Frank encourages him, and this is where it gets really chilling. Uncle Frank confides that after the fall of Hanoi, which they considered a certainty, the Amazon would become a hotspot loaded with oil.
We'll need good agents there, Uncle Frank says, people who understand the natives. And he chuckles about him possibly ending up working for a private company instead of the government. That's a massive hint about the EHM, the economic hitman role he eventually fulfills.
He has no idea at the time, of course, what EHM even means or that he's being groomed for it. He and Anne apply to the Peace Corps for the Amazon, but they get assigned to Ecuador. Initial disappointment, thinking not Africa.
Right, classic geographical confusion. But then he realizes Ecuador's rivers feed the Amazon, and its jungles are incredibly diverse, with indigenous people living traditionally, so they accept.
In Ecuador, they live among the Shuar and later the descendants of the Incas. He finds himself sympathizing deeply with these indigenous people, who subsist on hunting, farming, molding bricks, and they remind him of the townies he left behind.
That's a full-circle moment, isn't it? The very people his parents scorned he finds kinship with halfway across the world. And then another key figure arrives, Einar Grave, a VP at Chage T. Main Inc., MINA, a low-profile international consulting firm.
Einar also happens to be a U.S. Army Reserve colonel and an NSA liaison. He starts talking to our guy about working for MINA. When he mentions the NSA acceptance, Einar gives him a look that screams evaluation.
It's like a running background check, constantly updating his profile. Einar's sizing up his ability to survive in hostile environments. He spends days with Einar, then sends him 15 long letters over a year, assessing Ecuador's economic and political future.
His observations about indigenous frustration with oil companies and international development agencies are gold for Einar, who needs economists who can operate in places with unreliable data. The highly qualified economists, with their masters and PhDs, all failed spectacularly.
One even had a nervous breakdown in a Panamanian village. And here's our protagonist, with just a bachelor's degree, who's lived in the Amazon, who doesn't mind sticking his neck out. Einar basically tells him he can survive anywhere.
So, in 1971, at age 26, the magical age when the draft board no longer wants him, he's offered a position as an economist with MINA. Anne's family, surely influenced by Uncle Frank, encourages him to take it.
His ego is swollen. He envisions himself as a dashing secret agent, lounging by hotel pools with bikini-clad women, martini in hand. A total James Bond fantasy. But he soon discovers the elements of truth in that fantasy, and that his real job goes far beyond being an economist.
It's such a fascinating trajectory from that strict, puritanical New England childhood, rebelling against his parents, getting into trouble, to then having all those negative experiences used as qualifications for a role in covert operations, essentially becoming an economic hitman. A truly wild ride.
Absolutely. It really makes you think about how our perceived flaws or detours in life can actually be the perfect preparation for something completely unexpected and, in this case, profoundly impactful. What a story.